welcome to the Chai Academy, being broadcast from the Chai Center. This is the second in a series. However, it's self-encapsulated. It is not. You do not have to see the previous class in order to see, hear, listen to this class. So the topic is what gives. Why do so many people observe Rosh Hashana, right? And Yom Kippur also, for that matter. But Rosh Hashanah is coming. Why do so many people observe? So yesterday we were talking about it's the day where God decides and puts you in the book of life, and you pray, you reach out, and you convince and cajole, etc., etc. That was the main thrust. That was the main thrust yesterday. It is a new year, and New Year, a lot of people get together. It's just an innate thing, right? We discussed that. New Year, think of Times Square. Think of parties all over the world. The difference is that the Jewish New Year is not an arbitrary date. It's a day God created man. It's when man came into being. And therefore, it's not only a new year, but it's an anniversary of life itself. And our souls pick up on these things. And therefore, because of that, you can't, because it's ethereal, right? You can't, it's not tangible. You can't touch it. You can't say, okay, so I am going to, good afternoon, Eileen. I am going to, I understand why this makes me tick and that doesn't make me tick. I'm trying to convey it, but it's not necessarily a thought process. It's Rosh Hashanah. I gotta go. It's Rosh Hashanah. But why? And that is the point we're trying to make here. So it's New Year's, and we celebrate it different than we do at Times Square. Even though it's celebratory, and we do sing and drink wine and etc., etc. However, it's not hedonism, and it's not really revelry. And it's also our anniversary of life. So let's talk about that one. Anniversary of creation. So essentially, God created the world, the anniversary, where and whatever you want to call creation, however you want to call it, the Big Bang. It's not necessarily mutually exclusive. There's a great book on the subject, but I'm just going to move that aside. That's not for now. 6 days prior to Rosh Hashanah, heaven and earth were created. We don't celebrate that day, right? The second day, the upper and lower waters were created. So we have oceans. The world was inundated with water, and up in heaven there was water. It is water, right? We don't celebrate that day. On the third day, we got vegetation. So grass and trees and bushes and hedges and plants and beautiful roses and tulips and so many different things. We don't celebrate that day either. The fourth day is the sun, moon, and stars, the celestial bodies, and it's a big one, right? All the planets and all the planets we don't even know of yet, and universes we don't know of yet, galaxies we don't know of yet. It was all created that day. We don't celebrate that. The Thursday, the fifth day, God created the birds and the fish. So the birds and so birds in the sky, fish in the sea, the whales, and the blue herons, etc. We don't celebrate that. Friday, God created all the animals, all the animals. Mosquitoes, unfortunately, cockroaches, horrific, beetles. Um, I'm not talking about John Lennon, and just everything, everything. We don't really celebrate that. What we're celebrating is the last, literally the last creation, right before Shabbat, right before Friday night, which we now know as Shabbat. God created Adam and Eve. That's what we're celebrating. The, the world, God, just having a world with planets and trees and figs, and doesn't do much for God. Right? It exists, okay, so it's pretty, but it doesn't do much. It's not. That's not considered a loyal subject. An angel is not considered a loyal subject either, because an angel has no free will. So it's almost like it's a robot. When God created mankind, that is a celebration, because man thinks, cogitates, contemplates, and says, "Oh, there is a God." I can't necessarily prove it, but even Einstein said there's a God, right? Even scientists say there's something called a God particle. So we can't exactly prove it, but there's a God. We've come to this conclusion, combined with a little bit of faith, there's no question. And that is worth celebrating. God has now a creation that recognizes that there is a God who is the all-encompassing, and everything is His, and everything is Him. And then on top of that, we can worship Him, or we can defy Him. So it's God is this is a real, this is like the game of The Sims, right? The little, so this is what it is. So God now has a whole universe, excuse me, a whole universe that, and He prepared it for man. The fruits, the vegetables, the beetles, the spiders. But it's mankind that is the pinnacle of creation. It is what recognizes God. It is what recognizes God. It's not the grass. The grass doesn't recognize God, even though certain types of grass, you can really have a nice spiritual high and a physical high. But it's so Rosh Hashanah is recognizing that this is when God really became king. This is it, because there's no king without a people. So now He has a people that can recognize Him, worship Him, defy Him, part of the part and parcel, and that is what we're celebrating. It's also another reason why people flock. Another reason why people flock is because this is the day God remembers, right? And we touched on it yesterday. God remembered Abraham and Sarah. They were barren, couldn't have child, infertile. God remembered Hannah, and she was also barren. It's an opportune time if we feel that there's certain things out of our grasp, whether it's a child, or whether it's good fortune, or whether it's money, or whether it's health, or whatever, that God, please, we're asking you on this awesome day of remembrance And that's the blessing we make when we light the holiday candles, by the way. Remembrance. Because this is a day where we tell God, look, remember your people, that this is our anniversary. This is the day you remembered Abraham. This is the day you remembered Sarah. This is the day that Abraham offered up Isaac, on the altar, as a test. Remember us for good. So, if it's a day of remembrance, you want to be there. You don't want to be absent. Think of it as once a year, grandma gives out $100 to each one of her grandkids, right? Together with a cupcake. You're not there, you're not going to get it. Here, God is dishing out blessings. You want to be there. It stands to reason. I think, by the way, we have a quiet crew here as opposed to yesterday. And I think another reason that we can speak of is that, and it's only once we're there, and it's only almost once it's done, a person walks out with the knowledge that they've cast their burden on broad shoulders. They feel spiritually complete. They feel that they can, they've done what they can do, and the rest is out of their control. And there's a certain feeling of a sigh of relief. Is that okay? I did it. I prayed with my heart, my soul. I stated my needs. I felt I connected, and you walk out with a certain feeling of completion. But that is more post facto, not, that won't necessarily bring you. I mean, I guess people, if they remember the feeling, then it will, but for the most part, I think it's post facto. Another thing that I believe warrants explanation is that many people, and that's how I started, so myself included, many people they view that this is, it's almost like, well, God is going to see whether we were naughty or nice, right? It's Yom Adin, Day of Judgment. But actually, naughty and nice doesn't really come into the equation until Yom Kippur. Rosh Hashanah, we don't mention sin. Rosh Hashanah, we make good resolutions. We offer up prayers, but we don't really lambaste ourselves. We don't really, self-flagellate. We do not beat ourselves up. We do not confess to God. We don't. That's not Rosh Hashanah behavior. That's inappropriate. You're asking for blessings, for long life from God. You don't want to, at the very same moment, to say, and I'm a thief, and I'm a crook, and I'm and I cheat on my spouse, and I'm a this, that, and the other. I'm a skunk. I'm a bad parent. You don't want to do that. You don't want to do that. So confession, owning up to bad behavior, is a must. Is a must. But that happens Yom Kippur. After you've coronated God, after you've celebrated the anniversary, after there's a connection and a completion made, after you've seized on an opportunity to be present, then you have time to Yom Kippur, a few days, to really meditate on one's, you meditate on one's good and bad, naughty or nice, not Rosh Hashanah. So essentially, it's not a Day of Atonement. It's a high holy day, Day of Atonement. And by the way, the Day of Atonement, you have to mention sin. You have to itemize sin. In the prayer book, it actually has lists like I don't know how many, I don't remember, but and generalities. Sin of scoffing, sin of idle talk, sin of gossip, sin of laziness, sin of and then of course you apply it to oneself, and you really do a self check. I always joke when you hear the commercials. So Toyota, they have a 150-point inspection. This is the same type of idea. You tell God, I'm a used soul, right? And I got some dents and I've got some scratches, but for the most part I'm okay, and I'm going to work out the kinks, and that's what you do in Yom Kippur. So we said we coronate God. That's what we discussed the previous class. We coronate God, etc., etc. But fundamentally, what Rosh Hashanah is, and you will not hear it. You will not hear it, and it's unfortunately it's missed. It's missed by many rabbis, many leaders, many folk. It's missed. Rosh Hashanah is the reset button. Just like you have you start off the new academic year, there's a reset here. There's a new budget. There's new players. There's a new board. There's a new superintendent. There is new teachers. There's new kids. There's new problems. There's new solutions. There's new there's new concerns, and there's COVID that wasn't there 2 years ago, and it's a reset button. And you absolutely learn from what happened in the past, but most importantly is you do not continue bad, right? But you learn from the bad, and you say, okay, school year is starting. I know, Mrs. Jones, you had a very hard class last year. Well, what's past is past, right? You only have eyes in the front of your head because God wants you to look forward. It would be very practical to have eyes in the back of my head. Especially when you reverse in a parking spot in Brooklyn, right? Or you can defend yourself against a mugger that's creeping behind you, stealth. But no, we're not, because it's a fundamental. We cannot dwell in the past. You learn from the past, but you must not get stuck in the mud. And you move forward, and that's what the reset button is. You reboot your computer. What that does by when you reboot a computer is that any issues, if it freezes or it has this or that, you reboot it and it becomes a lot better. That's the same idea here. God reboots. It's a complete reset. There's a new budget. So God has a budget, right? And God allots the budget. Okay, in the United States, is going to be X amount of money, and the government's going to get this, and Rabbi Sachs is going to get this, and Bill Gates is going to get this, and for whatever reason, there's this disparity, but the budget, the new criminal code of conduct is reset, and the computer finally starts up. It's a whole new computer. It runs faster. It's you got rid of a lot of malware. You got rid of stupidity, and you get rid of sickness, and you get rid of it's a time to reset. For God resets, and you reset. You reset. This year is going to be different. This year, I'm going to be more attentive. this year, but it's not an atonement. You just reset, right? What happened happened, and what will happen will happen. You know, and I've taught this before because I love it. It's one of my favorite lines. It talks about in the Talmud. It says, "Daga minayin." Why worry? Why really? Why have anxiety? Why? And easy said than done, right? But why have anxiety? And the Talmud it continues its thought. It says, "What happened happened. You can't change the past. Just can't." Right? You're not Superman that can fly around the world and change. You can't. You can't. What's done is done. What will happen, you have no idea. You're not a prophet. I run a not-for-profit. So what happened, you have absolutely no idea of what is going to happen in your life 5 minutes from now. You just don't know. You can, and the present. The present, says the Talmud, is like the blink of an eye. The present is simply, and then it's past, and then we go back to it's past. What's past is past. So, in essence, this was a big blink, and now we got to move on. Yes, I yelled at my wife. Okay, it's past. Apologize. Move on. Right? And that is true any day of the year, of course. But Rosh Hashanah is just this global reset. If you have questions, you can ask here. If you have thoughts, so others can enjoy, you can place it here in the comment section. If you need to reach me, rabbi@thechaicenter.com. If you wish to see previous classes or courses, thechaicenter.com/academy. And lastly, please join us for the high holidays. We have COVID protocols in place for your safety. And to see more, thechaicenter.com. And it will probably be too much information. God bless. A good year. Thanks for joining us.